Hi everybody, welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to teach you how to draw a winter field landscape in 2-point perspective. Now I just want to say that I wasn't planning on filming a perspective related video so soon, but when I came up with the concept of this illustration, this is when I create videos I always create preparatory sketches and how I'm going to use them and what medium I'm going to be using. And this is just a winter field, a man looking out at the mountains and the blue morning sky. Now I decided that this 2-point perspective, I decided that 2-point perspective will be the best way to deliver this illustration. And before we do that, I'm gonna explain a little bit about how 2-point perspective works. Like I did with my 1-point perspective drawing. Now, I'm not really going to be teaching you exactly how to use a 2-point perspective, but I just wanted you to get a little feel of it because I might do a video on 2-point perspective in the future. So 2-point perspective, you have your horizon line like I talked about in my last video, and this time you have two vanishing points. On 1-point perspective, you had a vanishing point right there, and they come and meet you and meet in the ends. And my advice in 2-point perspective is that you place these two dots as far away as possible. And yeah, I think that's all we need to know about 2-point perspective. Now, I was originally going to show you a piece of artwork that I found in one of my favorite books. Let me go get it right now. Alright, so I'm back and I got this. This is one of my favorite books, Manga Art. Inspiration and Techniques from an Expert Illustrator, and it is by CRILLEY, one of my favorite artists. He is also on YouTube. You should definitely go check that out. And I don't want to spoil anyone, but there is one illustration in here that completely blew my mind away, and I decided to use reference for this illustration. And it's this winter field. This character of a winter field. On the background there's the trees, and I decided to use I decided to use this illustration as reference, and so let's get right into it. Okay, so I'm gonna get right in and start drawing the horizon line like it says in the diagram that I created. I'm gonna use my ruler. I don't know where my Westcott ruler went. If I find it, I'll definitely be using it. But let me get the paper in the right position and then zoom it in as far as it can go. And I think that's good. Alright, so let us get started. I'm going to place this horizon line in time-lapse, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I realized there was a little glare in the lighting situation here, so I decided to just move the light a little bit farther away. So now I've gotten this horizon line in the 2 points, and now I'm going to add in the figure of the person as seen in my concept right here. I told you before about my that I always come up with some concept of what it would look like in my good old sketchbook, and so I'm gonna do that in time lapse again. Forgive me for all this time lapse, but hopefully later I'll be back with some real-time drawing. So I got this figure sketched out into this oval composition that I've created. Now I'm going to start illustrating some snowbanks, and I'm also going to be taking, of course, some reference from Manga Art, the book of art of illustrations that I just showed you, and I'm going to just create some of this snowbanks. And you can follow along line by line if you would like, as is the case of all my videos. And you can even pause the video and as I explain how to create this type of snowbank. So all you have to do is to sort of get some curvy lines that try to look like water almost, but hopefully later they will not look like water when I start getting into watercolor. Hopefully it will not look like water when I get in watercolor. What am I talking about? Anyway, hopefully it will look more like snow when I start to get in the, perhaps I'll drop in some inking and yeah, just make some sort of lines that sort of make up texture, and try the best you can. I'm not the best at drawing snow. I will admit to that. But now I'm going to add to this figure by adding a scarf into his this character's neck, and I have to add the scarf, and it's like it's blowing because it's a winter scene. And I'm trying to get this as windy as possible. And now I just want to say that happy spring, everybody, and I'm so glad it's finally spring. But unfortunately, here in New York City, there was recently a big snowstorm on the first day of spring, and the entire ground is covered with snow. And before, the trees were covered with snow, not necessarily now, but before it certainly was. And now I'm gonna, I think we're almost done. I'm going to start very lightly add in some of this mountain area. I think that's where the watercolor is gonna come in real nice. And later, of course, I'm also going to be adding also adding watercolor to the sky, and I hope everything will look great at the end of this, because I just want to admit that I am not 100% satisfied with my illustration for the 1-point perspective, and I hope I can make it up to all of you by making a good illustration today. And now I'm going to illustrate some of these trees. Just come out like a Y with I hope, maybe, I don't exactly know how to explain it, but you could pause the video right now and follow what I just did, because we are going to go into time lapse once again and get in some of these trees. Alright, so I've rendered more of these trees, and they don't necessarily have to be like, let me flip the page around. They don't necessarily have to be like that. They could also be like, you could put as many ones in it as possible. And then I'm gonna flip the image again and get back to my illustration. And now I see this horizon line doesn't look very realistic, so I'm going to start adding in some hilly area to make it look like there are banks of snow. And of course later we're gonna come in with watercolor and ink, and then I hope everything will look great later, as I've said many times. But I think it is indeed time to start adding in watercolor. I'm gonna, whoops, I'm copying my watercolor here. Anyway, I'm gonna take my watercolors, I'm gonna open up my watercolors, gonna take my brush and my test out. I'm gonna start testing colors, and I'll be right back. Alright, so I'm back with my watercolors, and I'm gonna start rendering in the sky with a very pale shade of blue. I'm testing out colors here. I don't know if you can see. Maybe I'll just show it to you on a scrap piece of paper here. And bear with me a little. I need to get into time lapse to get this video moving, and I think we'll be right back. So I've rendered up the sky area of this whole illustration, and now I'm gonna go ahead and get in some black for the mountain area at the back here. Mountains are, I'm gonna keep it, just quickly go over with a very pale shade of gray, and I'm gonna keep it. And as you can see, I mean, I don't know if you can see because the paper's on the side. I've tested out many different colors on this scrap piece of paper, and I'm going to continue doing that right after I render my black here. I'm going to take a sec here, and I'll be right back. Alright, so I took a little break there because I needed to mix more colors up with my watercolor. I'm going to continue with this, hopefully not to ruin my whole drawing, but to add another layer color right here. And I think it's time that I grab my inking tools. But before we do that, I'm gonna let this dry, and we'll be right back. Alright, so I'm back with my Pigma Micron 05 inking pen, and I'm gonna start rendering some of the snow. This 05 is not yet, wouldn't say it's dried out yet, but if I hold it very close to the edge like that, and then I can get a very thin line. The Micron Pigma is very good at the line variation, and that's why I love using the Pigma Microns for it. And now I think I got most of that snowbanks done. I'm gonna go back and look at my reference photos. I'm gonna start illustrating some patches of snow that you can not snow, sorry, what am I talking about? Some patches of grass that are still visible, that the snow hasn't completely covered, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I also took the time to ink these trees and the figure, and you may have noticed I switched from an 05 to an 08 tip. This is a much thicker tip that I wanted to use for my character here. And now I'm gonna go grab a marker, and I'll be right back. Alright, so I decided not to go into time lapse at all for that area, and for that area of Sharpie, I used my Sharpie to illustrate that guy's what would you call it? His entire in the color of his figure. And I'm gonna take my kneaded eraser and just erase some of these lines away, because I don't want them staying there for the entire video. I want there to be some room, and I want it to look as finished as possible. And now I'm going to go back to my watercolor, just placing my kneaded eraser over there. And by the way, if you want to know what brand my eraser is, it is a Prismacolor kneaded eraser. It's about $3 for 3 of them on Amazon. And now I'm going to bring back my watercolor, and I'm gonna perhaps give him a little purple scarf. That's good. One of the reasons why I like watercolor is that I can color quite fast, and yeah. So I think that should be all, and now I'm going to place my watercolor on the side, and I'm going to take back my kneaded eraser and continue erasing these parts. You gotta be careful because the purple is still drying. And I might have to erase. Yeah, I think that should be it. Now I'm gonna ink this area, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I just colored in what I felt like was a photo frame effect, and I think that brings us to the end of this video. I'm just gonna put the pen down here, and before we go, I want to give a little shout out to Mark CRILLEY. He is not only the author of manga art here, but he is also the author of Mastering Manga 3, also one of my favorite books. And if you enjoy it, you can let him know. He has, in fact, a new video out called Chibi. And of course, I cannot go without giving also a shout out to my own books, Nikuri, my graphic novel series. And I just want to lay the pen back down, and I want to thank all of you for watching this video. If you liked it, please hit the thumbs up button. It really helps me to know that you are enjoying my videos, and also hit the subscribe button for new videos every week. I'll be in Brunswick, Maine, as you might know, and I might take some videos along the way, but yeah, see you next time.